Greetings, good people! In this video, I'll show you exactly how to create a ghosted company, one that is not in your name. Now, we've been getting a lot of calls from people who want to reduce their taxes and cash out their cryptos, but listen, if anonymity is not a concern for you, if you want to cash it out in your personal name, then there are far cheaper and simpler options than using a company. You can just get a residency in Dubai or use countries like Germany where long-term capital gains on cryptos are not taxed. This video is specifically for those who do not want their name on any paperwork, who want to be as anonymous as possible. Now that used to be pretty easy. All you did was slap on a nominee and be the shadow figure behind the company. But guess what? That doesn't work anymore, especially in first world countries like the UK, the US, and Europe, because they want to know who's behind the company, also known as the ultimate beneficial owner. More on that later on. And if you think that you're super smart and you're going to use jurisdictions like what I call banana republics that don't ask for this information, the problem is banks, they don't want to work with you. So in the next few minutes, I'll show you exactly how you can use those jurisdictions that have easy access to banking and be as anonymous as possible, while also rating the examples based on their practicality and probably some of the issues that you may face. So starting off, let's ask ourselves the question, what is it that we're trying to solve? What is the problem? Well, the problem is that governments and banks, they want to know everything about you. And say that you're super smart and you say, okay, let's have, I don't know, Paul. He's going to own all of my gold. He's going to manage my cryptos and my properties. The problem is that if you think I'm just going to own shares in the company, you're considered an ultimate beneficial owner, especially if you own above a certain threshold. Each country has their own threshold. The UK, US, Canada, it's 25%. But now let's say that you take it a step further and you say, okay, let somebody else own all the shares, but I'll manage the bank accounts. I'm going to be the manager of the company. The problem is you're considered as a person with significant influence. After all, if you own and control the money, you have influence. So the point of the examples in the video and the goal is to make banks and governments accept that somebody else is the ultimate beneficial owner other than yourself. And the simplest and the cheapest way to do it today is through a silent partnership, or what we call a nominee's nominee. Also known as a trusted confidant, this is a person who is going to act as the face of the company and sign off on all the official documents, open bank accounts, and you are going to be in the background still controlling everything. In trust language, this would be the protector. In fact, I made a recent video about how Khodorkovsky was the nominee's nominee, the trusted confidant of Jacob Rothschild in Russia.
У нас было принято такое решение, что есть протектор в трасте. То есть это человек, который выполняет функции человека, следящего за тем, что происходит. Недавно умерший лорд Джейкоб Ротшильд. Вот он выполнял функцию протектора.
Now, the catch today with this strategy is that you have to have someone who isn't an outright idiot and won't run away with your money. Because when you're going to have him open bank accounts in your name, the bank is going to ask questions about the business activities, what's the purpose of the bank account, and if he can't answer these questions, they won't want to do business with you. More importantly, the nominee also has to be from a low-taxed or no-tax jurisdiction, or one where taxability cannot be enforced, because guess who's going to be paying taxes? It's going to be him. So if you can find somebody who is extremely trustworthy with all those criteria, on a practicality scale, 5 out of 5. But finding such a person is quite difficult. Now, if you want to be a minority shareholder without raising any red flags, then the next technique adds a layer of obfuscation through circular ownership. So here's you. You're a 2% owner of your main entity, Company A, which owns all of Company C, which owns all of Company B, and Company B owns 98% of Company A. Now, in this structure, instead of having a nominee shareholder, you have a legitimate company. And Preferably, all of these entities are in separate jurisdictions, with company A being in a reputable country such as UK or the US for easier access to banking. Now, just a point of note, you want to make sure that you're not a tax resident of the jurisdiction where company B is set up, because places like the US, they can actually slap on a withholding tax on distributions, or even worse, consider this as taxed under their rules. As I said previously, that this requires a silent partnership anyway, because if you think that you're going to manage a bank account in your personal name, guess what? These countries, they'll see you as a person with significant influence. So on a practicality scale, I would put this probably at a 4 out of 5. It's good for larger companies, but you still need to have somebody who knows what they're doing, because banks, they don't like complexity. And the more complex you make these structures, they still want to see the bigger picture on how it performs. Now, another way how to make sure that you can be a minority shareholder is through a minority coalition. So here's you own 1% of the company, and you have two friends, Peter and James, and they each own 49.5%. But guess what? They both disagree with each other all the time. So you are the tie-breaking vote. Kind of works like the US Senate. If you have a 50-50 vote, you have who? The vice president who breaks the tie. This works really well for larger companies in jurisdictions like the UK, where nominee shareholding is very scrutinized, but on a practicality level for most people, it's probably a 3.5 out of 5, because again, you need two trusted confidants who will not collude against you, and that's harder to find. Now, the final method is specifically designed for trusts, because if you didn't know this already, governments, they all also want the details on the beneficiaries. So what you can do is you can slap in a company as the beneficiary of the trust, and let's say you're a family of 5 and each person owns 20% of the company's shares, which is below the threshold to be considered a beneficial owner. It also works hand in hand with complex trusts. You can see a video where I specifically went into details. Now, the wealthier you are, obviously there are more ways to get around company structures. For example, a few people, they like to do cross-shareholding. This is very popular with larger companies, especially in Japan or in Switzerland, where you can have a Swiss AGSA, and they actually require you to have a Swiss resident as a director, which is pretty much a de facto nominee. Now, be careful, because with these directors, their signature itself can sometimes cost up to $200 per bank transaction, and your fees are going to go sky high. Same thing with UK PLCs, quite popular with cross-shareholding. So essentially you have companies that own each other, and once again, your accounting fees are going to go 3, 4, 5 times even more. Anyway, that's it for today's presentation. It was a little bit more detailed, but I hope you enjoy this type of content. If you do, you can subscribe or leave a comment down below. It helps with the algorithm. I made a video on 5 factors that can improve your anonymity in the financial system. I'll be seeing you though in a future video, and until then, bye-bye.